Good morning, everybody. It's like old home week, old friends week. So, do we have anybody in the audience that's new to a WRC, other than Andrew in the back? Oh, good. Welcome to all of you who are new. And we're going to try to find you mentors in the audience that can help you through this relatively insane process, if I can say so myself. But anyway, welcome to everybody to the first meeting of the World Radio Communications Conference Advisory Committee for WRC-19, and most of you are survivors of WRC-15, which was quite the surviving mechanism. It's hard to believe that here we are again, starting to prepare for another conference, and glad to see that there's some new faces here. And as you know, we've had some major changes here in the leadership team at the FCC for our work team. And I'm sure, as most of you know, Alex Roitblatt in the front row here, he's changed seats. He used to be sitting here, but now he's gone to work for the Wi-Fi Alliance, right? And we all very much appreciate Alex, all the work that you've done for many, many years. You were, my companion, my sidekick, and, you helped me get through a lot of different things. And I don't think there's anybody in the world that knows the radio regulations like you do. And as well as being a fierce negotiator, and I think that I'd much rather be on your side than against your side. So, if we can continue to do that, I think that would be really good. But the baton has now been pushed, what's the word I want? Passed. That's the word. I was going to say pushed, and I'm like, no, that's the wrong word. To Dante Ibarra, and so he'll be the new work director for the 2019 period. And I think all of you experienced ITUers know Dante and know that there's probably no one other than Charles Glass in the audience who knows the next conference agenda items quite as well as he does. And so I think that we'll have somebody who's very knowledgeable. And, I think we have over 35 items. It says that we only have 19, but we all know that that's just a fake way of doing the measurements. But, and with Dante, of course, is Donna Christensen on the FCC team. She's the one that keeps this thing going, the WAC going, as all of you who are here know. We also have some of the old team leaders like team members like Alan and Sankar and Chip, which all of you all know, and Carlos and Larry. They'll all be helping out in their roles here as well. But now it's time for me to introduce our two new chair. We have a new chairman and a new vice chair. And so the new chairman is Tom Power, and I think this might be the first sort of full-scale initiation into the work process for you. So welcome. This is an easy way to get into it, actually, starting at the WAC and then going further. And Tom is now, he's the senior vice president at CTIA, and formerly he was here at the FCC and then at NTIA and OSTP. So you've made the rounds, and so he's got a great view of all the different perspectives, so that's quite helpful. And then new in the vice chair is an old hand, a young old hand, in Chris Murphy, and most of you know him from his work through the satellite community, and now he's the Associate General Counsel of Regulatory Affairs at Viasat, and so we're really happy to have him as well. And we have a whole bunch of new informal working group chairs, and welcome to all of you, and thank you, because I know that that's actually really where the real work comes in and is done, so thanks so much for accepting our invitation to be the head of those committees, because I know that that's where a lot of work happens. So thank you so much, and I will give it over now to is it Dante or Tom? Who's next? I'll give it over to Tom, the new chairperson.
Great. Thank you, Mindell, and good morning, everybody. And let me repeat my thanks to Mindell and the team here at the FCC who makes life a lot easier for Chris and me, and particularly Dante and Donna, who've been helping me get up to speed as we launch the process. Also want to thank Chairman Wheeler for giving me the honor to serve in this role. It really is a great honor, and I appreciate the appointment. And of course, mainly I want to thank the members of the advisory committee. I know we all have day jobs, but I don't have to tell any of you how important this work is in terms of whether it's resolving interference concerns or creating a global marketplace for U.S. companies or spreading the promise of wireless technology throughout the world and protecting our federal agency partners and their important missions. So it is not glamorous. It is in the weeds, as you all know. But I really appreciate your sacrificing to come join us as we kick this off. And before we dig into it, I'll turn to Chris and see if you've got any remarks and to thank you for helping me out.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Tom. I also want to thank the chairman for appointing me to this position, and Viasat appreciates the opportunity to serve the committee. Looking forward to working with all of you again on another cycle. My son asked me when I left yesterday what I was going to do and what this meeting was all about, and I said, well, he's 10 years old, so I said it's sort of like the first day of school, and but school goes for 3 years. So Tom, I'm looking forward to working with you as well, and everyone on the committee and all the informal working group chairs as well. So thank you.
Great, thanks, Chris. So we'll dig into it. We'll start. We've got a number of documents. I know they were posted online. I don't know if they were handed out here in hard copy, but hopefully you've seen them. And we're just going to go through them, starting with the agenda itself. Obviously, this is largely an administrative meeting as a kickoff meeting, but you'll see what we're going to cover here. If there are questions there where we want to get into any discussion of the individual items, it might be best to wait till we get to those individual items, and there will be time at the very end for a little wrap up as well too. For now, I'll just pause to see if there are any comments on the agenda itself.
Ties, access, or ITU documents? How's that arranged?
If you could also identify yourself, if you'd
I'm
like.
sorry, Robert Weller with the National Association.
All right, thank you, Robert. That's a good question. If you would, if those folks who do not have ties accounts yet, you can email me, and we will certainly facilitate that arrangement for you. We'll have to go through the State Department to request one, but it can be done via email. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions on the agenda itself? If not, we will deem that approved. The next document we'll take a look at is the charter document itself. This has been developed and is in place thanks to the Office of General Counsel following the guidelines of the Federal Advisory Committee Act. But obviously as a charter, it sets forth the roles and responsibilities and the processes we're going to follow. Nothing much to discuss there, I don't think, but I just call it to your attention since it will be our governing document. Chris?
Thanks, Tom. Next document that we'd like to cover is the PowerPoint presentation. Dante is going to go through the working methods and processes for the committee.
Okay, thank you, Chris. So I just did a quick, easy PowerPoint presentation for folks, and just summarizing, I guess, today's discussions as well as, I guess, some of the potential questions that you may have, so you can use this for future reference. So we'll just talk about the objectives and scope of work, just highlighting the areas of the charter that we have. We'll look at the structure and how we will go about our work. We'll discuss the membership participation, logistics for our meetings. We'll also talk about the listserv, where most of our correspondence electronically will be handled. And we'll reference at the end our FCC WAC website, where we will be posting documents and other information regarding our work and our meetings. So our objectives and scope for the work. So the main objective that I highlight is to provide the FCC with advice, technical support, recommended proposals for the ITU Radio Communication Conference. And the scope of activity is all the necessary steps to assemble the information to provide advice, technical analysis, specific recommended proposals on matters relating to the World Radio Communication Conferences, with particular emphasis on the WRC-19 agenda items. And as Mendel said, we have quite a number of those. So the primary deliverable from your work in the WAC and the IWGs is to provide WAC recommendations for U.S. preliminary reviews and proposals. And so I think the initial step that we'll be starting on will be developing those U.S. preliminary reviews, and those will eventually evolve based on the ongoing studies with regards to the agenda items. Those will evolve into U.S. proposals at some point. Moving on to the structure, we've subdivided the WAC into 4 IWGs, informal working groups. IWG 1 will handle all of the agenda items related to maritime, aeronautical, and radar services. And if you looked at the WAC structure document, that'll be all chaired by Mr. Joe Kramer and assisted as a vice chair, Catherine Martin. And you can refer to that in the structure document with further information. IWG 2 is the terrestrial services, and all the agenda items related to that will be there, and that will be chaired by Ms. Jane Stankiewicz, and the vice chair will be Tricia Paoletta, Ms. Tricia Paoletta. On IWG 3, which is the space services, and that encompasses all of the satellite spectrum issues as well as the space science issues, and that'll be chaired by Mr. Jack Wingernick. And that'll be vice chaired, helping Jack will be Ms. Giselle Krieser. And then under IWG 4, which covers basically the regulatory issues, the big umbrella there, and then we have issues such as Agenda Item 7, the famous Agenda Item 7, which is the satellite regulatory issues, and that's the big one there. And we have a number of other regulatory-related issues. Ms. Jennifer Manner will be the chair of that group, and assisting as the vice chair for the regulatory will be Mr. Steve Baruch. Any questions on that? And again, we'll review this in greater detail with the actual structure document. Moving to just a brief description of how this work all plays into how we prepare for the WRC from the U.S. perspective. So here we have the WRC WAC Advisory Committee. And so what we do there is the WAC provides as I said, the deliverables to the FCC as recommendations. We also provide, we also get feedback also via public notice based on what the WAC provides, as well as other comments on our preparatory work. In parallel to the FCC and WAC activities, we have NTIA. They also have a similar process to develop their deliverables, preliminary views, as well as their views, versions of the proposals that they were working on. And so you'll see that the IRAC has a radio conference subcommittee, RCS, that develops those deliverables is on the NTIA side from the federal agencies. FCC, as you can see, is observer in that activity, as NTIA is an observer in our activities here. And there is some back and forth between the WAC and the RCS. There's exchange of ideas, and in some cases, the NTIA may be providing their proposals into the WAC process to try to get some coordination, perhaps some consensus on towards a common proposal, whether it's a preliminary review or a U.S. proposal. And ultimately, when we get to the point of reconciliation between the FCC and NTIA, hopefully we have a consensus document. Those consensus documents will be then forwarded on behalf of both agencies to the State Department. The State Department then takes it from there and ultimately prepares those U.S. Proposals or preliminary reviews and submits them ultimately to the conference and to WRC-19. And I guess as part of that WRC-19 box, I didn't describe it there, but that also involves CTEL work. So eventually what ends up at the ITU goes through CTEL, where we try to develop consensus or get support on our U.S. Proposals with our CTEL colleagues, our CTEL administrations in our region. And ultimately we can try to get inter-American proposals that ultimately get sent to the WRC. The next slide describes briefly the WAC membership and how that is being handled both at the WAC level and at the IWG level. So the main points here are that only one primary representative or one alternate per organization may speak for the organization at the full WAC. And below that you'll see what the member representative can do and what an observer can do. So a member representative can submit contributions for consideration by the WAC. That representative can also offer views on any WAC items that are being considered. An observer cannot submit proposals or provide views on any WAC items. However, they can provide any informational advice if it's requested by the WAC membership. Now, the IWG level, this is, again, the membership and how the roles of the IWG membership are. So we have a number of additional alternates that can be identified and permitted to cover IWGs. The additional alternatives must apply and be vetted through our OGC. Only one alternate per company may speak and vote on behalf of the company in any particular IWG. The company must designate which alternates will be their spokesman in that particular IWG. And again, we have the same sort of, ground rules for the member representatives and the observer, where the member representative can submit contributions that can be considered by the IWG, and they can also offer views on any IWG work items. Observer, same approach, cannot submit proposals or provide views on IWG items, but can provide informational advice if asked by the IWG membership. The meeting logistics, the WAC meetings typically meet up to about 3 times per year, and we have our meetings here at the FCC Commission Meeting Room. And we'll always announce our WAC meeting dates via public notice and the Federal Register notice. The IWG meetings are a little more, flexible in how much they can meet. They can meet as many times as they need to in order to get the work done. They don't have to meet here. They can meet via teleconference. IWG chairs can have arrange for both a meeting in person and a teleconference. So it's really flexible for the IWG chairs and vice chairs to arrange that. And again, the planned dates of those IWG meetings will be announced via public notice to give those participants advance notice of those schedules for those particular IWGs. This is the listserv. This is more or less the email reflector that we've set up for each of the IWGs. And we also have a particular reflector for the WRC-19 group as well. And so these are basically the instructions on how to subscribe and post information to each of the IWGs that you will be following. And this information will be also posted on our FCC WAC website, so this will not be the only place you will see this. So if you need to subscribe to any of the IWGs, you can follow this process, and it will work for any of those. And this is just our FCC WRC-19 website. I think most of you probably have already seen it, but this is where we'll be posting our documents, our meeting information. At some point, we'll be posting additional information after this meeting, including the list of members and any other information such as public notices for any upcoming planned WAC and IWG meetings. So this is something that you should always pay attention to. Eventually, when we get to that point, we'll be also publishing whatever CTEL documents that we forward, that the WAC and NTIA eventually develop into the documents that go to CTEL. We'll be posting those here. I think NTIA also does a similar thing on their website. But this is a good website to keep handy. If there isn't anything on, if you're looking for something that isn't on here, please let me know. I'll be happy to update this and provide you any information that you need. And I think that's our link there at the bottom. If it's quite an easy, short link. I think that concludes my slides, Mr. Chair.
Great. Thanks, Dante, for that. The next document we're going to look at is the document entitled Advisory Committee Structure. It's just going into a little bit more detail on one of the slides that Dante presented. As you'll see on the front, recognizing Chris and me as Vice Chair and Chair, and also Dante as our designated federal official. Turning on, we've got the identification of the 4 informal working groups and their agenda items. I'll be a little repetitive, but as Dante indicated, informal working group 1 covering maritime, aeronautical, and radar services with Joe Kramer as chair and Catherine Martin as vice chair. Our FCC coordinators for that working group will be Carlos Flores, Alan Yang, and Dante. And then you see the list of agenda items that are coming under the purview of that working group. Why don't I just go committee by committee and see if there are any questions or comments on what we've got here for Working Group 1? Yes.
Good morning. And I actually don't have, well, my name is Kim Baum, and I'm working for SES Americom Incorporated. And I wanted to congratulate everyone on their appointments. I'm very excited to have this work starting. I have kind of a general question on participation, and I don't know if you want to take it now or at another time. But if you look, for example, at each IWG, there are a wide range of agenda items covered. And if you take IWG 3, one where I'm more familiar with the topics, you have issues addressing C-band, Ka-band, and V-band, for example. And, within SES, we may have different people as experts on each of those issues, and it may not be something you could answer now, but we would find that we could be more effective if we could perhaps have 2 designated representatives, for each IWG or something like that, just given the very diverse, subjects like in each one. So that would be something I'd ask if that could be considered within the, the overall mandate for the WAC.
Dante, I'll let you take that. It seems like the rules have one designated representative per organization, but
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Yeah, Kim, I think that we'll need to certainly consult with our OGC to see how we can work that around. But I understand your issue. So presently, as I said on the slides, that each organization, each member organization can identify a primary and alternate for each IWG. Now, within a specific IWG, if there is a number of different issues that may require additional representatives, we'll certainly try to get some clarification on that.
Okay, and if we could have a primary and an alternate, that would, certainly be more flexible. I had been looking at it as one representative per IWG, but, having a little more flexibility there would be great.
I don't think there's any difficulty, Kim, with say, additional, say, experts from say, your company offering their views. I think ultimately, one person will be able to ultimately, we say vote, but I don't think we work by votes. We work by consensus, obviously, but I don't think there'll be a difficulty if you have additional experts that provide advice on issues. It's just a matter of how we want to classify those additional folks. If we need to, again, we'll get clarification from our OGC folks if they have to be actually identified as alternates. So we'll get back to you on that.
Okay, thank you.
thanks, Kim. Obviously, we want to maximize the expertise and the input while maintaining a process that we can manage. Any other comments or questions specifically on informal working group 1? If not, we'll move to working group 2, terrestrial services, chaired by Jane Stankavage. The vice chair is Trish Paletta, and our FCC coordinators will be Dante Ibarra and Alan Yang. Any comments or questions on the items listed here? All right, very good. Moving to informal working group 3, space services, chaired by Jack Wingranek. The vice chair is Giselle Creaser, and our FCC coordinators are Chip Fleming and Sankara Prasad. And again, a list of agenda items we'll be looking at under working group 3. Any comments and questions? Nope. Very good. And then working group 4, regulatory issues. And as Dante said, the chair is Jennifer Manor. The challenge, of course, with Jennifer as chair is that all the meetings are conducted jogging around foreign capitals, if her social media posts are to be believed. The vice chair is Steve Baruch, and our FCC coordinators are Alan Yang, Chip Fleming, and Sankar Prasad. And there you see the items that will be under the purview of working group 4. Any comments or questions there? No? All right, very good. We will deem this document approved by the committee. And Chris, you want to tee up our next guest?
Sure. Just before I do, I want to emphasize on the presentation that Dante gave There's instructions on signing up for the FCC listservs for each of the IWGs. You just insert the IWG name and then info.fcc.gov. You have to do it 5 times if you want to be on the 4 IWGs and the WAC committee itself. I did that the other day and there was no response, so I assume I'm signed up, but the chairs may want to send out a test message at the beginning just to make sure everything's working for the members. This time I'd like to turn the floor over to Mr. Charles Glass, who will provide us an update on NTIA's IRAC Radio Conference Subcommittee activities for WRC-19. Thank you, Charles.
Thank you, Chris. And good morning to everyone. Congratulations to the new leadership for the WAC and the IWGs. We will be working closely together over the next 4 years. As was indicated earlier, in NTIA, we do have our own advisory committee that matches the process that is being followed here. We have the IRAC committee, which would mirror the WAC, and for the informal groups, we have the RCS that then breaks out and looks at the individual agenda items. We use a structure under the RCS that is aligned with the CPM chapters, so we have 6 groups. So the two don't completely match up. However, when we send over proposals, we send over proposals by agenda item, not by grouping under letterhead to the FCC, to Mindell, and then those get distributed to the appropriate groups for consideration, and vice versa. We receive from the FCC any proposals or views that are developed there, and we will consider those in ours. I would ask that we try to coordinate the meetings to the extent possible. The RCS meetings meet on the first Thursday of every month. We would need till Monday or Tuesday of the following week to process documents and get that sent over to the FCC for consideration of the IWGs. And then also taking into account we would need documents a couple of days beforehand, before the meeting, so that we can consider those in our working groups and feed that input into the RCS so that we could provide advice. For the conference, I will be the WRC coordinator for the NTIA side, so Dante and I will be working very closely together as we have for many years now, so I look forward to that, and I think that it will be very productive. That being said, are there any questions?
Great. Thank you, Charles, for that, and for all your work and all your colleagues over at NTIA. Next, we will take a look at the preparatory timeline, which is one of the documents that we have posted. You'll see a whole list of upcoming dates for various meetings. I would point specifically to the very last one in 2016, which is the CTEL meeting at the end of November and into early December. That is where, of course, the U.S. will be presenting our preliminary views on the items for the work agenda. So that obviously means we and the working groups will have a lot of work to do between now and then. And given that date, we've picked October 24th. Is that final now, Dante, for our next meeting?
Yes, that October 24th date was coordinated within the IWG leads and vice chairs, so I think that is our target now.
Great. So that'll be the next meeting of this full group. Also, can't help but point out November 3rd being the 110th anniversary of the ITU radio regulations, which is extraordinary to think about. That 1906, back in, I think it was in Berlin, was where they first came together, and we're looking at, I think it was all the shipping radios that first got their attention. But I don't know if we need another working group for our social committee to plan the big celebration for the 110th, but we can take that offline maybe, Chris.
We'll work on it.
Let's see. I'll turn it back to you for the next item.
Okay. Just going back to Dante's slides again, the last slide, slide number 11, has the FCC website for WRC-19 activities, fcc.gov/WRC-19. please put that in your web browser and refer to it often. Donna, I'm sure, will do an excellent job of keeping the documents up to date.
Great. That is everything listed on the agenda other than other business. So I will open the floor to see if there is other business. Anyone with any questions or comments on anything we've covered or anything yet to come? Jennifer? Sure. For the folks online.
So, Jennifer Manor, Echo Star, and just to echo Kim's comments about congratulations, and we're excited to see the WAC kicking off. Just a quick question, are you going to issue a public notice with how we apply for folks to serve as representatives, I can't remember the exact term, on the IWG? So just what's the process of who do you send that into, and when will that be coming out? Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. So, yeah, we will have a list of all the WAC members posted on the website. And at the conclusion of this meeting, Donna has put out some sign-up sheets at the table over there where if you have a particular interest in any IWGs, you can register yourself for those IWGs. So we will break those down, that entire WAC membership list, into the particular IWGs. Now that's separate again from the email list that Chris mentioned earlier. So this is particularly where you want to have your concerted efforts, or you want to have your alternates listed as. So we'll have that at the end of this meeting. And again, we will get all that information, put it together, and we'll post it on the website. So each of the IWG chairs and vice chairs can see who will be participating in each of their respective informal working groups. With regards to the OGC vetting, I think for example, with regards to the alternates, again, everyone should have been notified already with regards to their memberships, as well as the primary alternates. That is, with regards to there are some additional late applicants that we received that have not been cleared yet. But if you haven't provided your alternates yet, or you would like to do that, you just send Donna an email with your information. I don't know, Donna, if you have any particular information that you need to have requests provided to you.
As our original PN stated, we're accepting applications on a rolling basis. So if you want to submit alternates, you would just follow the procedure that's already outlined in the PN and provide that information to us in terms of qualifications, contact information, and confirmation from the company that they want this person to represent them, and submit that so that the applicant can be vetted. So it's basically the same process that we've just gone through.
Great, thanks. Any other questions or comments? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I would like to echo the laudatory comments made by Ms. Baum, Mr. Glass, and Ms. Manor with regard to the efforts and activities that you're all going to have to undertake as a result of your appointments to your current position. My name is Charles Rush, and I'm here representing myself as a special government employee. And before you ask the question, well, what makes him so special, I will just say to you, I've already asked myself that question, so don't ask me that. I have a quick question concerning, if I may, the assignment of a specific agenda item to a IWIG group. I don't know if this is the proper time to ask that question, but if I may continue, I'd like to just ask the question concerning the assignment of agenda item 9.1.2 to IWIG 1. And this is an agenda item dealing with the appropriate regulatory and technical studies relating to the compatibility between IMT and BSS sound in the frequency band 1452 to 1492 megahertz in regions 1 and region 3. My initial perusal of the terms of reference for this particular agenda item leads me to ask the question, how is this fitting into the activities of IWIG 1 vice the activities of either IWIG 2 and or IWIG 3. Thank you.
Great. Dante, you want to address how that was assigned?
Sure. Thank you, Charlie, for the question. It appears that this agenda item is obviously, as you point out, that it's IMT from the mobile site perspective, as well as a BSS sound that may involve work from the satellite experts. I think with regards to this particular issue, we didn't include them in those groups, particularly because I think that it was more or less a general issue, and particularly since it came from regions 1 and 3. I'm not sure that particularly we would have a particular view on that problem, but we could certainly take that into account, that perhaps we may want to consider this issue to be brought into either at least one or two of the other IWIGs. I'm not sure if the IWG 1 and IWG 2 and IWG 3 chairs would like to share that issue amongst the three groups. If that's something that we're willing to do, we can certainly amend this structure so that the three groups can consider those issues.
Thank you for that. Any other questions, comments on the meeting or the way forward? Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one thing to add. It's important to note that right now CTEL is undergoing some upheavals. They have budget issues. So our participation in there is going to be important, which means we're going to have to get our inputs done earlier than we have in the past going into those meetings. Noticing when your next WAC meeting is, that should be sufficient to be able to allow us to respond early with respect to our inputs going into CTEL. But we need to keep that in mind as we move forward. And I would ask that we try not to schedule the WAC meetings too close to a CTEL meeting to give us a chance to coordinate back and forth between our groups with at least 2 or 3 weeks to be able to put inputs into the CTEL meeting. In many cases, we're going to have to try and translate them ourselves, get the companies to translate them, have State Department do translation, and that all takes a great deal of time. Thank you.
Great. That's great input. Thank you. Any other observations before we adjourn? Nope. Chris, Kendall, anybody? All right. Well, thank you all for being here, and thanks again to the great FCC staff, and good luck. Charles's last note there reminds us it's all about the preparation, so it's time to get to work. Thank you very much, and we will declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you.